I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So, for my quote of the day, it's coming from my guy, Mahatma Gandhi. And he says, strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. Let me repeat that. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. Now, I know what you guys probably, what the hell does indomitable mean? That's what I said when I first read that as well. But indomitable means impossible to subdue or defeat. Impossible to subdue or defeat. I like that. So the quote of the day, strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. Yes. Will is a skill, you guys. That's all I got for you guys today. So keep growing and keep going. Thank y'all for tapping in. Peace. Let's get it.
So good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to start with that quote from Bernard Jay Rackley, who's quoting Mahatma Gandhi. And he says, strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will, right? An indomitable meaning impossible to subdue or be defeated. And when I think about will and I think about strength, it's one thing I'm very grateful that when I set my mind to anything, I'm determined to accomplish that goal. And I don't let naysayers or I don't let my own personal doubts or anybody else affect what I'm trying to accomplish or what I'm trying to do, whether it's for my clients or for myself. If I set my mind on something, if I say I'm going to purchase something, an RV, for example, been thinking a lot about my buddy Jason Nash lately. And Jason was like, bro, you gotta get a trailer. We gotta go camping, bro. We're gonna have memories, right? And so once he planted that seed, then it became something that I desired and that I wanted. Started watching online and had a budget in mind. Luckily sold my first property that I purchased when I was 22 years old. So had a little bit of extra money to invest, right? And I call it an investment, even though anybody who knows anything about RVs knows the second you purchase it, just like a car, it depreciates, right? So there are some investment opportunities in terms of writing off depreciations or a home office or different things like that. But without getting into that, the whole point of this is about will, right? And your will to accomplish or do something. But even deeper than that, I just want to talk about life right now. And a lot of what's been going on in my mind lately, like literally, I've been paying attention to my heartbeat constantly. If it's beating very rapidly, I try not to get overly concerned, but just mortality in general. Losing my very good friend Bernard Jay Rackley has still been a process of grieving and self-reflection of just, self-awareness of what it is that I want to accomplish in this life, right? And I definitely have a sadness for Benjamin, his son, who's 7 years old. And it's interesting because I was just listening to Bernard on one of his podcasts talk about he was looking at his son, who was 2 at the time, and he was sad. And what he was sad about was that he didn't have a brother or sister, and he was hoping he could have a sibling for him. And he just didn't want Benjamin to feel alone. And he also knew that one day Benjamin would grow up and be on his own. And he talked about how grateful he was to have his dad. He's always had his dad his entire life, right? And to hear him talk about being aware of being sad, looking at his son when he's 2, and he's 7 years old right now, I could only imagine his feeling of sadness for his son right now, right? And I know the look that I saw on Benjamin's face when I gave my speech at the services and looked at Benjamin and just said how Bernard was the coolest, just one of the best men I've ever known. And Benjamin got sad. He kind of did what a 7-year-old you would imagine, who just loves his dad with every ounce, every being and part of him. And so as I get sad for Benjamin, I start, thinking of the trials and tribulations of what I go through with my son and with our kids, but it's specifically my son recently, and some of the things that he's doing and some of the choices he's making. And I'm having some pretty strong, deep talks with him and trying to figure out, okay, how do I discipline him? And I know what worked for me growing up, and times have changed, and I try to figure out every other effective way other than how I was brought up. And so as I start trying to figure this out, I actually get a message, one of those Instagram posts or whatever it is, talking about the mind of a 9-year-old boy. And a mind of a 9-year-old boy is growing rapidly. Their brain is growing rapidly. They actually need about 10 hours of sleep. If they're under 10 hours of sleep, they're sleep deprived. So I know my son's not getting 10 hours of sleep. I know on a good day, maybe 7 or 8 hours. So you have that. You have hormones, different things that it's going through his body. And at the end of the day, he's not always thinking logically. I may be the only one experiencing this as a parent, but as I try to figure out, okay, am I being a good dad? Am I doing my part in being a good role model and teaching him and speaking to him about these things? I try to figure out, okay, what can I teach him with the time that I have here? And so I want to start creating these podcast style videos. I want to start doing what Bernard has inspired me to do. Been thinking about a lot of men that I've known, a lot of fathers, or just men in general that have passed that are under the age of 50. And I don't know if it's just me or if it's just something in my circle, but I can name off quite a few of them. And it's just, again, even my son's asking, like, Mom, do you have any friends that have passed away? And it just seems to be on my side. So with that being said, the thought of mortality has been a huge focus and kind of consumption for myself. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? What lessons am I supposed to teach my children? What kind of dad, like, am I stopping? Am I just working, trying to provide a better life, a better house, better things? Or am I balancing it with the right amount, or am I not doing enough? Let's be real. Am I not pushing it as far as I can because I justify it with, well, I want to make sure that I get to spend time with my children and create those relationships and those memories. So one of the things I told myself is I'm gonna stop and go out and play if my daughter asks me to play or my son asks me to play. So my son and his friend, his neighbor, come over and they're like, hey, we want to build a tent. Can you help us build a tent? So I'm like, I just made this promise to myself. Let's go build a tent. So we go run out. We build a tent next door. We go get our 10-person tent, from the garage. Run over there, build the tent. They have fun. Mikey asks if he could spend the night. He tries to. Wakes up in the middle of the night. We hear somebody knocking on the door. I guess he got scared. So trying to give these kids these memories, right? And as we get back to the whole point of why I wanted to create this message, just asking, like, what do you do to teach your kids or to discipline them, to teach them how to be just good human beings, right? Like, what are the things that you instill in them when they do mess up? Because they're going to mess up if they're anything like how I was as a kid or how I expect my children to be. I don't want to take it for granted, but my daughter, I feel like for the most part has been such just a good role model in so many different ways. Maybe I'm just naive to it, right? Maybe she's getting away with things that I'm not even thinking about. But at the end of the day, I just feel like she makes a lot of very smart choices. And I want to make sure my son's doing the same thing. So don't want to paint this out to be worse than it is. Just letting you know my thoughts. Letting you know that my heart is with the Nash family, Jason Nash, Maribel, his wife, his kids, Carter and Jay, his parents, right? Daniel and Karen and Maria and Adolfo. And Jason's doing some amazing things, pulling some miraculous things off lately. And, I'm just so grateful to have the trust of his family. And I know how proud he was to work with me. And he always said, he's like, I'm loyal to a fault, right? But he was always loyal to me and proud of me as his agent of helping him. And the very first time we sat down, when he was interested in buying their first house, and we went and had some wine, and he's taking his notes. And at the end of it, he's like, you got me feeling like I can do this, right? And not only did he buy that, he bought 2 more homes after that within like a 6 to 8 year period of time, and put his family in a beautiful situation. And now we live up the street, right? So Jason, thinking about you, miss you every day. I still don't get it. I still don't understand it. But what I can promise you is, just like I know you would step up for my family, I'm here for your family, and in any way that I can. The last thing that I want to leave this with is just how important your integrity is. And your integrity is doing what you know is right when people aren't looking, whether they're looking or not looking. But you're making the right decisions and you're in an alignment, right? And when you do right by other people, not because you have to, but because you know it's the right thing to do, then God blesses you in so many different ways. And I had this gentleman who I spoke about on another Facebook Live that stepped up big on Monday and gave my family heat, right? Like, he stepped up on a rainy day, and we were freezing for the last 2 weeks, and toes cold, feet cold, right? Like, just feeling too much. And I was worried my kids are going to get sick. And so finally I just stressed the urgency to this complete stranger. I found him online, and he went above and beyond, fixed a leak that was on the roof. I mean, just above and beyond. And I just saw the level of integrity, his service, the way he works. And it inspired me to really want to make sure that I'm living a life of integrity. And that's on all levels: being a good husband, being a good, in growing my relationship with God, right? And trying to read and understand the message that God's trying to show me, and just live a good life, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. What are you doing today? Are you making the most out of today? Do you have that will, right? That willpower to achieve your goals and whatever you set your mind on? And a couple things I'm going to do. I'm going to Japan this year, right? I'm going to put that out publicly and say that I will go to Japan, and I'm taking my family to Japan this year, right? That is a goal, and I'll do everything in my power to make sure that that does happen. I will also continue to grow my business by living a life of integrity and serving other people and always doing what's right. And everybody can win. I'll engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects, right? That's Napoleon Hill. You can live a life like that. And you can engage in transaction. You don't need to take from somebody else in order for your clients to win. Everybody can win. There is a way of doing it, right? There's a way that everybody can feel good at the end of it and be represented. There's plenty of opportunity. It's a more balanced playing field than it's ever been. It's not heavily slanted towards the seller. It's not heavily slanted towards the buyer. Guess what? Buyers and sellers got to talk. They got to communicate. They got to fix problems. So if you're great at fixing problems, you're great at anticipating problems before they become problems, everything's resolvable, right? It's actually a great market to be involved in real estate. So without getting into too much, I already know this went longer than I expected. Welcome to my world. But I'm going to finish it the way Bernard does. Let's keep going and keep growing, right? And live one life. Let's make it count. Peace.